Good morning.
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 Teacher.
Good morning, teacher.
Good morning.
Morning.
Please allow me to go the other side.
Good
I have to go the other. Thank you.
Sally, you're leaving first. Hello?
No, I'm going the other side. You leave, then I think I will come
On,
in and
because
do the
I thought
second part.
is Michael on? Huh?
I just wanted,
I'm
I wanted
asking,
to
is Michael
confirm.
on?
No, he says he's going to join. No, not yet.
But is he coming?
So you can take over.
What has he said?
Yeah, the slides are on and now already. That's what he says. So maybe you can take on your. He
Let
says
him come.
he's on his way.
If he's coming, let's wait for him.
You could begin, then he takes on the second part, I think.
Let him come
I
and be.
request to leave and go the other
No,
side,
who is
the
going
German
to
class.
wait?
Now
Who is going
waiting
to
for
be?
me.
Who is going to be doing the screen shows if you're leaving?
I am.
I have.
I am the one who is
Chabato.
sharing right now.
So allow me to go to the S3 German class.
Yes, yes, girl.
I am the one sharing the screen.
Okay.
Yes, so it's okay. So you can present. We shall manage.
Okay, take me to the first slide as the girls are giving us an opening prayer.
Which first slide? That's where we are right now.
Has Sally showed you where we are beginning?
No.
No, Joel, first take me to the next one because that one is like a heading then. Okay. Kale, let the girls give us an opening prayer.
Humble souls for a word of prayer. Oh Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for everything you've given us, Lord. We pray that you help us during this lesson. Let us be attentive, Lord. Let us not disturb the teachers. Let us get everything they're going to teach us. And let us go through these online lessons and COVID very well, and schools may open soon. In Jesus' name I've prayed, amen.
Okay. So girls, most of the previous lessons that we have been looking at, we have been discussing the centralized societies. Now, we are going to discuss the decentralized societies. There they've given us examples. If Teacher Joel can look at can show you the examples that they've given us. They've given us the Chaga, they've given us the Chikuyu, the Itesots, the Acholi, the Langis, the Maasai, the Karamajongs, the Nyamwezi. All those people fall into the category of the so-called decentralized states. So we are going to look at what the decentralized states were actually, okay, what they were, what they embedded, and what did they have in particular. So I beg, sir, you take me to the other slide. They're telling us that unlike the heading there, they were also the decentralized states were also referred to as still pre-colonial societies. Unlike the kingdom areas, these societies do not have a strong or centralized administration. Remember, a centralized administration, I can look at it as a central authority on top, like a king on top, having the people, having members, having the leaders who are leading on his behalf, or the leaders who are under his jurisdiction, and on top, the leader or the queen, the king or the queen is there. Those would be like how we look at Buganda, how we looked at Ankole, how we looked at Busoga. Those are centralized in nature. But decentralized, they don't have that. They were smaller in size and weaker in strength compared to the kingdom areas.
75 meters. Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Kwendi nyabo. But you can oban continue ntandikirawo.
Kale soko taking it fast.
Okay, obadde okoze nakajjako kati mbadde nziruse mperere wano nga ku doctors.
Kati kwoli.
Kati kwendi oyinza continuing nkamala otuuka somewhere mbeere stable because I'm still driving.
So they were mainly ruled by chiefs. One thing we have said that these decentralized societies never have kings. Basically, it was the chiefs and the clan heads who were actually ruling them, and they were having chiefs who were taken to be the leaders. Teacher Baton, take me to the third slide. When you look at common factors under their political organization, how they were politically organized, remember politics dealt with leadership. They are telling us that they had a decentralized system of administration. Under decentralized, we know there would be no leader. The decentralized system, there would be no leader on chief who is categorized as a king or a queen, but they had chiefs. Those chiefs fall into the category of the decentralized. So their leadership was decentralized with chiefs, with clan leaders, but with no central authority. They were headed by a chief. That one can help me beef the first explanation there. It was the chief or the clan heads who was ruling these societies or who was heading these societies. And he would be the one to be in charge of all the issues concerning administration and all the issues concerning leadership. He had no absolute authority. Why do we term these leaders not to have absolute authority? Because we all know that they didn't have the absolute to be that everlasting authority. They never had that because you're a chief or you're a clan head. So that absolutism, that absolute leadership was actually missing in such societies. If it was a chief, they were then assisted by elders. And these elders helped you to check the powers of the chief. Because even the elders couldn't see the chiefs going wrong, and you think the elders would just laugh. And you actually think the elders would just smile. Whenever they would see the chief going astray, whenever they would see the chief going and doing something which wasn't in contact with what they could expect, they would actually talk to the chief. These societies, in most cases, don't have a standing army. And we know army is political nature. But they make the young ones, they make the able-bodied boys who are trying to grapple, who have grown up, to take on the leadership, to be members in the army, to be soldiers in the army, to be in the army and also work. So they had no strong standing army, but used the youth in case of an external attack. In case of an external aggression, the youth would come and stand by their side. They are telling us the fact that they observed the royal regalias, and these royal regalias would help in whatever these people. Royal regalias included the drum, the shields. They used them in leadership. So like the centralized, they had a drum, they had the shields that they would use via leadership. Then when you look at the common characteristics in general under social organization and these decentralized states, they're telling us that they believed in the supreme being. The creator would be worshipped. They would look at that supreme being as the sole giver of life. They'll look at him as the one who gave them the life that they will be existing in, or the life that they're existing in. So the creator would actually be recognized. And they believed in him. They looked at him as being soul. They looked at him as being so important. They looked at him as being there. And then they carried out ancestral worship. Under ancestral worship, it meant that they worshipped the spirits of the dead. And the spirits of the people who had died would actually be worshipped. So that ancestral worship could be recognized, and the spirits of the dead should be looked at. They used to respect the people who died, thinking those people are coming back anytime. Mike? Hello, Mike. Mr. Chwewa? Mr. Chwewa? Okay. They believed in small goats. Hello? They also believed in small gods. And those small gods would help in serving different purposes. Being decentralized couldn't take away the fact that the gods were actually worshipped. Being decentralized couldn't take away the fact that those small gods would be given attention. So they used it too. Can someone tell me what, can I see someone telling me what you understand by sacrifice vis-a-vis the gods? Hello? Girls? Please mute. Do we see any difference between gods and sacrifice? Can I get someone to tell us?
Yes, teacher, me.
Okay.
Serving the gods are like those people who be in the place, like those people who do witchcraft, I think. Like those witches. Then I think offering sacrifice is like when they used to, like, let me say, they say, I give this animal to you, and they kill it to make their gods happy. I think it could be like they could bring those things and they give them there, I think for appreciation or something like that.
Okay. Thank you, my dear, because when you look at the small gods, they are the gods that those people used to worship. They had the god of the rain, the god of war, the god of different things. But when you worship to those gods, or when you're doing worship and you're respecting such gods, there are some things you would sacrifice and give to those gods, like meats, like beer, like grains, like milk, to appease the gods. For you maybe to think or to show that the gods are actually doing the good work. You have to recognize those gods and give them sacrifice for the good work that they do. So those are the things that we give in to the gods to show that we are really appreciative. Teacher Abato, the next slide. The chief. Was the religious leader who presided over religious functions. So the chief had to preside over religious functions and attend to those religious functions that these people had. So they used it too. So religious functions, wherever they would come, because their religion still will be full of these sacrifices, the chief would actually attend to those sacrifices and would be the religious leader to lead as far as those sacrificial things were concerned. Then they celebrated important stages in life. They used to celebrate puberty. They used to celebrate puberty. They would celebrate marriage, even death. People, even up to today, we celebrate death. You can't tell me, Teacher Resty, we don't. That's why when a person passes on, you see relatives, you see friends coming, and we mourn. It is a ceremonial, it is a mourning celebration, but we attend. So they used to celebrate that. Puberty, marriage, all are actually celebrated whenever such problems are there. So they are very important things. Another thing is that they used to sleep in grassy thatched houses that were made up of grass thatched. I don't know today if girls you still see these houses, but don't lie me. There are some people with villages. You always go to your villages in holiday, and you see the grands and the papas in those grass thatched houses. Deep in the remote villages, the grass thatched are still there. That's why they're telling us here. That these people slept in grassy thatched houses. And by the way, I've ever asked people, most of the people using these houses, they said they are very nice and they are cold inside. Only that if you're not sleeping in it or you don't have it, you may not understand the beauty of it. But people who are using them, they say they are beautiful, especially they have that coldness aspect in them. But when you're you feel like, yeah, they are nice if they're well made. The next slide. They participated in games and sports. They used to do wrestling, they used to do athletics, and they used to play board games. Here in Buganda, one of the board games that we had was Omweso in Uganda. There is that game called the board game that people used to play. But these days it's not common, but I think it is still there. So even these ones could not just spend their leisure just like that. They used to participate in those games. They carried out hunting. It was actually a very special social event. Why do I show hunting as why do I put hunting under social? I think after hunting, they would gather, jubilate and eat. Maybe share what they had hunted. That's why it can look at as a special social event. You see it, celebrate after the hunting procedure. Then they observe the royal regalias. We have already looked at them as a symbol of power, like the shield, like the spear, the crown, the stool, the drum. All those are basics of the royal regalias that these people used to respect. And these people used to Yes.
So did they carry out their hunting in groups?
Probably. Because even here in Buganda, which is the kingdom that we know very well, people would get all the hunting materials and would go to hunt as a group, meaning even these people might have done it in a group way. And after coming back, I think they would see it. I can just put a scenario of a picture. After hunting, we sit and roast and we are happy, we are eating as we are, slaughtering this and this. I'm trying to bring in that picture. That's how it may turn out to become a social event. We are seated, jubilating, we are excited, we are boozing, we are eating. Okay, we move on. Yes, Joel. Okay, now let's see the common characteristics bioeconomic. They carried out cultivation and grew crops. They couldn't just sit there without looking for what to eat. They used to grow yams, they would grow beans, they grow crops, which crops would help them for survival. Because these are the crops that would help them move their life. Then they also kept animals. That is the livestocking they're talking about here. They kept cattle, sheep, goats, goats, which goats later would provide for them meat, and cows later would provide them milk. And we know all these were a part of the deity that they used to depend on. Then they carried out hunting. They're telling us here that they didn't hunt only big animals. No, they hunted both big and small animals for meat for hides and ivory, which animals maybe would help them in their lifespan and in their life survival to see how they would actually move on. So they used to hunt. They would hunt the big ones, they would hunt the small ones, but all of them, they were for survival. They gathered wild fruits, wild honey, wild insects, and all these were roots of that, were sources of food. After gathering, they would eat all the gathered. I mean, they would utilize and depend on all what they had gathered. So gathering was also taken as an important economic activity. Then they carried out pottery and made items like cups. Yes, you know, from pottery, you can make a cup, you can make a jar, you can make a bag. So they used to do that. But specifically, they're telling us they used to make them out of clay. It's clay that would help them. It's people. They used to do blacksmithing. And they would make and working as one of the important activity. And they made spears, they made arrowheads, they made punks, all. Then fishing was also carried out to supplement their diet. And they used to carry out fishing around lakes and rivers. They would fish. Then another, remember, we talked about in their previous discussions of the decentralized states, that economic is basically dealing with what they used to, as an activity. And then they're telling us that these people, again, they're telling us that they carried out, Joel, the next slide, we have finished that. The continuation, they also raided the neighbors. Raiding is, I wanted to use a simple word maybe to stand in raiding, and that word, you come and take all what your neighbor has. And sometimes they would raid things for wealth. I come, I raid all your animals because I'm well assured that when I take those animals, I'm gonna become rich. And I don't only raid your animals, I even go on and I raid women. They used also to raid their friends' women, maybe to marry them. And you know, in the past, the more wives you had, the more wealthy you could be looked at. According to them, sometimes women could be a source of wealth. Then they participated in both local and external trade, exchanging grains, exchanging backcloth with their neighbors. So they exchanged. They exchanged the grains, they exchanged backcloth for the people to give them what they were also producing. I can term it to have been barter system trade, though it may not have been, but they used to barter with their neighbors. Give me this, I give you this. Then craft making and weaving of mats, baskets were also done. So when you look at those, are like, before we go and look in particular, one tribe or one society after the other, we have first given you the common characteristics that they all had. What they all had in particular as decentralized kingdoms. Before we go on and study one by one. So before I shifted to the Maasai society, as the first case study we are going to see among the decentralized states, can I entertain some questions in case they are there? Teacher Bato, you help me choose those people. Yes, any questions? Girls?
Yes, excuse me, teacher.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I had a few questions. The first one was that if they all had like a supreme god, then how did the small gods come about? Because
you said you had two questions, then the second.
There is a Yuan.
Okay, let me first answer scepter.
Yeah.
Then we get to another one. I would love, sorry, I would love to give scepter and the general class that today's scenario. Today people know that there is a big God that we are worshiping. Creator heaven
Teacher,
and
it's Shona, I was asking.
and we entertain one after the other.
So Shona, what was the question?
Are we now listening to Shona or to scepter still?
Okay, let's first go to Scepter. But Scepter has put down her hand. Maybe let's go to...
Okay, let's go to Shona ask and then I answer at once.
Okay.
The teacher was the one who asked the first question that if they had a supreme God, that how did the small gods come about?
Okay, now one thing we can look at is that like today's scenario, people know that the supreme God is there. Okay, if you can say the creator heaven and earth, the God, the big God we are worshiping, but they also have the gods. That's why in Buganda here we have the Luba small gods. I won't say for quicker things, but they go there. They will know that the other is there. Today, if you're to interact with a person who is going to those things of witchcraft and God, those small gods, he will tell you about these things delay. If you are interacted with people, they'll tell you when you pray to God things that which is not the right thing in case you know how to pray to your God. We know godly things can come and they do come. I don't even want to use the word they can, but they do appear, provided you get a good channel praying. So it's like now the same situation here. They knew that the supreme God was there, but still they had those small ones, trusting them as God of war, trusting them as God. Now you're seeing that it started a long time ago that you can't take it away. How maybe they think that these gods work in the way they work.
Okay, and then also my second question was that, was it Maasai the king or like the chief was the will of the chief?
I have not had that question. Get your network is like moving off. Can you be in one place so that I can get your voice very well?
Yes, I was asking that.
Now I'm hearing you.
Was it a must for the chief to attend all the religious functions, or was it just at the will of? Was it their will that they should one? Yes.
Okay. The thing is, the chief was the religious leader. That is what we have seen. Him being a religious leader, it meant that in orderity, he was supposed to be there to lead. Not the fact that all the time the king would lead, the chief would lead. Sometimes he would delegate. Some functions would be handled religiously when he's busy, and other people would take on his behalf. But it doesn't take away the fact that he was supposed to be, or culturally is known to be the one, if I may say like so. Whereas other people can also come and lead, it doesn't stop the fact that the other one should be or must be the religious head, if I'm to say.
Yes, thank you. And then my last question was regarding the sacrifices, like how would they offer them? Would they be going to certain places and, will it be done by some kind of religious leaders, or the people do it themselves?
I do believe in offering these sacrifices, You know, even these small gods have got channel. I have got people linking them. You can't move just straight to the so-called Jaja or to the so-called smaller god and you go straight to meet him. They had people who are linking them. And I would think they would take, because the sacrifices, most places are done, appreciating the God for what he did for you, that small God. So like I came, I didn't have a child. I later came here and I got a child. So here I brought my sacrifice. I brought something to please the God for what they have done to me. They used to take them because at the same time, just to send it and send the person. How did the God know that you, the person they did to you, something good, you are the person who is appreciated? They used to go and take the for those God to appreciate and for those to really know them that they had done what Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Listen.
Wanju?
Let me also supplement something
Okay.
about how sacrifices were offered. Sometimes sacrifices would be offered on a certain raised piece of land, what we call like hills, or they would be taken to big trees, where the big trees are regarded as sacred places. Sometimes they would be offered in a shrine. So it would be slaughtered, and then blood would be either smeared on the rocks or on big trees, or sometimes be put in a certain container where they believe that these gods would come and take the blood, or they would come and eat the meat. So that is how sacrifices were being offered. But for their occasion to be carried out, so-called religious leader would officiate in the offering of these sacrifices. That is what I wanted to add.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
Hello.
You can continue.
I continue.
Yes, he has finished.
Okay, we go to Maasai. Okay. We are beginning now to look at the specific examples for these decentralized states. And we are going to begin with the Maasai. So they're telling us that the Maasai, when you're looking at where they came from or the origin, the Maasai follow under, I'm seeing a hand. Okay, Lindsay, what is it?
If raiding can also be called stealing.
The what?
Raiding. Can
Yes.
it also be called stealing?
Stealing. Partly. Because when you're raiding, you're conquering, you're taking something that is not yours to make it be yours. Indeed, if you're taking something that is not belonging to you, you're actually stealing.
Okay, thank you.
The Maasai follow under a pastoral group of the Plainy Nilotes. So in other words, they were Plainy Nilotes. They moved Plainy Nilotics or Nilotes. They moved from the area west of Lake Turkana, and they began moving around the 17th century. That's when they began their movement. They existed in two groups, i.e. the Kwavi and the Puko Maasai. So they're divided into the Kwavi Maasai and the Puko Maasai. They occupy the present day Machakosi in southern Kenya. That's where they are found. And some are found in northern Tanzania. Yes, the next slide. The Maasai were a decentralized society who were the Kalenjin and were also a Nilotic speaking community who were dominant in East African Rift Valley Plain from Uwasi Gishu Plateau in the north and around Mountain Meru in the south. They are trying to show us where. Please, can everyone mute? Noise is interrupting the lesson. So they're trying to tell us exactly where this Maasai actually, what would be the origin of this Maasai? But one thing we know, they were a decentralized society. They were part of the Nilotic speaking people. And under the Nilotics, there were plains, those people who used to live in the plains. And basically they were pastoralists because in the plains they used to rear and keep animals there. They have told us in the other previous slide, Joel, I'm sorry to disturb, but I want to do my communication, the explanation of the first slide on the Maasai. I wanted to bring out, well, they're telling us that they were a pastoral group. That's why I've said that the people who used to live on the plains, most of them were pastoralists. So we are looking at how they moved up to Lake Turkana. They were divided into two. Either you could be a Kwavi Maasai or you could be a Puko Maasai. They're telling us how they're occupying the present day Machakos in southern Kenya and how they are found in northern Kenya, northern Tanzania. So those are the people that were called the Maasais of East Africa, or the Maasais in East Africa. Can we move to the political organization of these Maasai? That was the third slide on the Maasai. Having looked at the general political organizations, when we turn to the case studies, it becomes easier for you because almost the points will be the same, only that the examples will be specific. So when you look at the Maasai, they are telling us they were decentralized in nature and they had no central authority. Why do they say they had no central authority? They had no that organized thing that the king is on top, but they were decentralized in nature. Either chiefs or kings or clan leaders. They were organized in many subgroups. They would be divided into subgroups. And each subgroup was independent of each group or was independent of each other. For example, if today are the Maasai would now be divided into the different smaller groups. And when you look at these different smaller groups, each group would be independent of the other. And so they would be grouped into smaller groupings. And they're telling us that, and grouped loosely around the different libons or the religious leaders. So in the subgroups, they would be where they would be divided. They would have those religious leaders leading them. Because of maybe the many things that they used to do, these religious leaders seems to be people of the high great importance amongst these societies. They were divided into 16 independent groups. They had 16 independent groups, and each group with its territory. And water supply. Please, people making noise in the lesson. It's bad. Can you mute yourself? So they're telling us that they had the divisions that we're looking at, they're telling us there were 16, and each division will have where it used to stay. Each division will have a portion of pasture. Each division will have a portion of water. Having known that these people's main occupation was basically pastoralism. So each division or each group would have where to get the pasture, it would have where actually to get the water for their survival. That's what they are trying to tell us here. Can we actually move to the next slide? They were organized into clans where people were further organized into age sets. They would have clan divisions also. And in those clans, people would have the different age sets. What do I call the different age sets? You would find that if we're a clan A, we would have people ranging between 10 to 20, people ranging between 20 to 30, those ranging between 40 to 50. And in most cases, people will do the age sets basically for security and for defense. In that if a problem has cropped up here, they would send people to go and assist. They would say, let the people of 10 to 20 go. As the people of 10 to 20 would go, another challenge would crop up. They would say, now this time, the one for 30, 40 should go. That's why sometimes, and people of the same age agree together very quickly and understand each other. I'm going to give you a scenario using myself. If you find it interesting, being a friend to a senior 2 girl, whenever teacher is telling this girl her problems, you know, I don't have what to eat, you know, this is what I'm passing through, you know, I have this, you know, my children are like this. People say, nah, yeah, even this girl can say, but teacher resting. Because you're actually talking to a girl who doesn't suit the challenges you're passing through. But if you find me with Mrs. Mwanguzi, you find me with Mr. Chiwewa, you find me with Mrs. Seriange, I think you will not question so much. Yeah, we are like almost sharing the same things. Little wonder how I'll find senior 2 girls discussing. I feel like I'm jealous of them. I feel like I want to interact in what they are discussing. It's not my age. Their conversation suits their age. That's what I'm looking at here. The age sets have a way they bind people, or they used to bind people. Maybe that's why they used to create them. But basically, in most societies, they were for defensive purposes. Each clan had its own territory where it used to be. Cattle brand, pasture and water supply, where they used to get. This one will be for this clan, this one will be for the other, like that. Leadership was exercised through the age sets system. Age sets were linear and their names were unique and never repeated. Maybe you'll find in most societies, people under the age set of 10 to 20 are called this. People of 20 to 30 are called this. People of 40 to 50 are called this. And they're telling us that those names would be given to them for maybe identification. The linear system was used for easy identification, and maybe for people maybe to understand that this is this one, the other one is the other one, like so. So it would help to identify very quickly. And those age sets would help in identification purposes, and it would help as far as this people, or in whatever they actually wanted to do and wanted to call that what they wanted to call. Then Joel, the next slide. Initiation into the age sets was done through circumcision. Initiation is like making you to enter the age system. Like how in South Africa, we started initiation among the Khoikhoi and the Sani. If a girl or a boy was entering puberty, we said there was that process of initiating you to that stage. Even these ones will initiate people into the age sets. But they're telling us in most cases to make you really be initiated, because they were sure that anytime you would become a leader, they would do it according to the years. After raising 15 to 16, you had to pass through the initiation stage, and you had to pass through the initiation process. The younger who were initiated, entered the grade of junior warriors. You were a younger person. Now you would cultivate, you'd be promoted to a position of a junior warrior. And that junior warrior position was known as Irimuran, and formed the right and the left division. So there was that promotion that someone would get, and that someone would be promoted to. So you'll be a younger person, then from being young, you enter that Irimuran grade, and you formed the right. Okay, maybe here what they are meaning with the right and left division. We are looking at whether you'll be a junior warrior or you'll be in the category of young. So that's what they're trying to tell us here. Then they're also telling us that that junior warrior who would be promoted as the Irumran lived separately in Manyatas, where they were drilled in military techniques. Because now you have moved away from the position of being a younger person, now you're promoted to a position of a junior warrior. When you enter the position of a junior warrior, you'd have now a specific place where you used to live. And when you go to that specific place, the most important issue or the most important thing was actually to drill you, to make you, teach you the military techniques. Because now they'll be looking at you as an important person in the society, as a person who would help via the military aspects. That's why maybe they would give you a unique place, you are in a unique position, and they give you a unique homestead where you used to live. Age sets were promoted after 15 years as warriors. Then in fact, they were promoted from being young to a junior, then from the position of a junior to a senior. So after 15 years, there will be I won't call it the reshuffle, but there will be those promotions. People who have been young, because I think the younger stage would end at 15, 16, they would be waiting to turn to a junior position. Then after 15 years, we'll be waiting to turn to a senior position. Yeah, the next slide.
Just wondering, had you looked at this?
Let me see. No. Yeah, leadership was exercised. Yeah, I looked at that.
All right, let's move on here then.
I just want to finish the political and I give them a chance to ask questions. Each age set had a religious leader known as Libon. The Libon had no political power. He was just a religious leader, but with no political power, but would be leading each age set. The elders settled disputes in society, but murder was treated separately, because we all know murder would be a big case. That's why maybe when he did murder, it would be treated as a unique case and a separate case. But these other cases would be settled by the elders. A fine of cattle was usually imposed on a criminal, and for the murder, sometimes members of a different clan would avenge the death of their beloved by killing the clanmates of the murderer. Yeah, in such big cases like murder, sitting and discussing would not help. That's why they are telling us that in such a situation, there was avenging or revenging towards the family where the murderer was coming from, towards the family where the other people who had killed the other member would be coming from. So usually they imposed on a criminal, and for the murderer, sometimes members of a different clan would come and be the one to treat that murderer in a way that they felt like cheating him, in order to be able to judge the different case, the case of the murdering that he would have done. It's political. Yeah. Let's first pause and the girls ask, because it has been something long. We need to give the girls a chance to ask questions. Girls, it's your turn. Any points you need me to demystify and maybe give it more explanation?
Let's have Shona, Namale, and then Angel. Start with Shona.
Yes, teacher. I have 3 questions. The first one is that, let's say that the chief maybe stopped following the religion, or he went against the religions of the society. Would the religious leader then come in, or it would be the chiefs to talk to the elders to talk to the chief?
In a case a chief went against the religious norms.
Yes.
Because almost the chief was the supreme religious leader. And when you look at it in a normal understanding, you are the topmost person. I do believe the chief had to make sure that he takes keen caution not to go beyond the religious norms. But in case he did so, they had to sit and talk to him, because we cannot say that the chief, as much as he's on top, is actually perfect 100%. Obviously, people will talk and tell him what actually was the best, what he had to do to sort of all what he had gone beyond or what he had done. But even in the same way around, if even these other religious people went beyond the religious norms, the chief would sit them down and counsel them, direct them what actually were expected of them. Either way, it would work.
Okay, and then also, could they tell us the roles of the religious leader, since you said that it doesn't have political powers? So what does the Libon do exactly?
Libon, exactly, he led religious functions. Libon, it would be, remember how Mr. Chowa told us that in the sacrifices, the religious leaders had to attend and they had to be there to witness the sacrifices that were brought. So we can't say that the Libon had no role there. Maybe even coordinating other religious leaders and actually seeing how the society was moving, but he had not these powers of like killing. A chief would have the power over death and life, to have the power to announce something, like how the president today has the powers. If he decides to lock down people, lock down, full stop. No one come and say, who is the president to come and do that? No, he has the full powers. But you can't tell me that the Archbishop of Kampala can come out and say, we are locking down. You are just a religious leader.
And then my last question was that this promotion and initiation, that process, was it only applied to the men in that society, or was there also apart for the women?
Even the women, we had to be initiated, because you mean there are no women who can be junior commanders? They are there. And again, this initiation, by the way, can be looked at into a broad perspective. You may find the initiation, first of all, because when you look at the age of 15, when they are promoting someone from being a younger person to at least a junior to start growing, there might have been even the cultural initiation, initiating a person, the puberty stage that you're entering, because you have already seen they respected the puberty and adolescent stage. You're entering this stage, this is what we're expecting you to do, this is what we expect you, this is what is expected of you. Or obviously the girls will also be there, because even us girls, we pass through the different stages of growth to become what we become. So it was broad. girls and boys, and it may not only be looked into the angle of army and soldiership or fighting or army, but even the social life and the general life would be done that way also.
Thank you.
Yes, Diana?
Yes, teacher Rusty.
Yes, Ebo?
Let me just add something on the initiation.
Yes.
That at a certain age, if say boys had reached an age of 12 onwards, in their growth and development, basically at this age, they were looking at how they would prepare them to be warriors, how they would prepare them to be that charismatic in leadership, the men. Yet for the case, for the men, it was military, much as the other growth and development aspect of life was also concerned. Yet for the women, basically their initiation was in the social being, how they were prepared to be good wives, how they were prepared to be good mothers. Just as we grow at a certain puberty stage, when we begin developing the adolescent characteristics, we are prepared for them by what we call seniors. For the case of the schools, we have senior ladies and then senior men. They play their role, especially in the primary schools, where certain girls would be talked to and be warned not to play around with the opposite sex. Anything can happen, especially if they got involved in premarital sex. So initiation for the case of the girls was looking at how they were preparing them to be responsible mothers. Yet for the boys, it was combined, but the gist of it all involved military skills which were to be acquired. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
teacher.
Chiwera. Any other question? Any other question?
Antongo, do you have
Mikey,
a
can
question?
we move?
Yes,
Okay.
teacher.
Yes,
teacher.
ask.
Teacher, I didn't get the part of the murderers. Was their punishment only to them, or was it to them plus their family?
And they said a fine of cattle was usually imposed on a criminal. You who had done a criminal offense, they will fine you. Either give us 5 cows, give us these cows, give us 10, a fine will be given. And for that, because now, remember how we said that the simple cases, the society would handle them and they would fine you. But for the case of murdering a person, sometimes members of a different clan would avenge the death of their beloved by killing a clan's mate of the murderer. This time they had no even time to tell you that give us these cows. No. They would just come to your clan, like, okay, let me use my clan. If in our clan, my brother killed someone in the society, they would not say that let the family of the late Benny Mvle, where I'm coming from, let that family give us 10 cows for the killing of our person. No. They would also just come in that family and kill someone so that the pain they are passing through losing a person, you also feel it. As they cried after their relative died, you'll also cry the same way. As they handle the expenses of burial and they bury that person, you'll also feel it. They would avenge the death of their beloved by killing a clansmate of the murderer. That would be an offense for murdering a person.
Lindsay. Okay, let's have Lindsay, Joan, and Blessing, and we'll leave it at that. It's already 1 p.m.
Chair, I'm asking about the notes that were recently sent. So are they under South Africa notes or East Africa?
This is East Africa.
No, there were notes that were recently changed of
About
What?
centralized and
Interlacustrine region.
The notes that were given to do what?
They sent us
Interlacustrine region.
classroom that were about
Interlacustrine region.
interlacustrine region and centralized societies.
That is East Africa.
I was supposed to copy them.
Yes. My dear girls, we said, yes, we said the little piece, the piecemeal that we cover in every lesson, you're supposed to write that work like in the evening after your lessons are done. Copy the work in piecemeal. It would not, yes, it would not be heavy on you if you copy it in piecemeal. Then keeping the work.
No, teacher, like we have the bigger part of the notes, and most of the things that are in those slides are like the summary of the political and what like that.
Okay, what I can ask, did you get this work previously already in the books?
Yes.
Now, if you have the work already in the books and it's the same work that we are doing, then why do you recopy it if you had already copied it?
So we're asking about the
What if you have never copied it?
Now it's high time you copy it.
Teacher Rusty.
So teacher, should we copy the 50 pages they sent last time?
I think my dear girl, how you're calling it.
Success in the middle chart.
Had you copied it in bits and bits, they wouldn't have mounted to 60. They wouldn't have looked like 60. You cover you write what we have covered a day, because the lesson is once a week. By the time we come back to add you next week, you're done the little that we studied in the previous.
Teacher Rusty.
Angie,
just tell those girls if they haven't copied the notes, they should copy. We are not dilly-dallying. We are not dilly-dallying for them to copy notes. They must have them, and we shall check when they return.
So what if you don't have them when we return?
Teacher, there were some notes posted yesterday.
I have a question.
The middle chart. Are we also copying this one?
Teacher.
Middle chart, no, that is CRE. We are talking about history. History copy what we have gone through.
Let the girls do what we are telling them. That's what we can tell them. It's even time up. They know what they're supposed to do.
I have a question.
Yes?
Teacher, it is like these things that were happening in long ago, like were they happening everywhere? Like there were no presidents or ministers or councillors or lawyers. It was just happening everywhere the same, like only in Africa or like in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, because that's what we are learning about. What was happening in the area, like there were no ministers or lawyers or presidents or commissioners or ambassadors. That's what I'm getting confused.
But they had them, although council, they would be like council leaders, but they had them. They'll be council in nature, but they had them.
Kirsty,
yeah,
there are some, it was supposed to be an attachment. It was sent on 29th July, but there was nothing attached to it. It's in Google Classroom.
But what?
Something that was sent on 29th July in the Google Classroom, but there's nothing attached.
Okay, I'm going to first check, then I will see how, because I don't know, I have to look at it.
Okay, the date is 29th July.
Okay. Kale, thank you, teacher.